depth. Many Guardian readers, in their letters, when we asked them for questions, complained about the state of the roads in the past. Some even calling it the worst in a rural town in South Island. If you become Mayor, how will you improve this situation? And how will you make sure that the responsible council staff and contractors fulfil their obligations in a timely manner?
This is clearly an issue of concern for us, but it's not just an issue of concern for this district. The whole of the South Island is concerned about the state of the roads. If you've been watching TV in recent times, you will know that a coalition of the mayors of the district councils and the regional councils have gathered together to try and bring the South Island voice to bear on the state of roads. We are no exception to that. I've already indicated earlier a couple of the contributing causes here. One is that the government has declared that there are 7 roads of national significance, and they will take the bulk of the funding for roading. 5 of those roads from memory are in Auckland. I think another one is in the North Island and one in Christchurch. But Canterbury doesn't feature. So not only is the bulk of that money going to where the government's put it, but the government has reduced the subsidy that we can obtain for making repairs to our roads. So we've got a whole lot of factors here. We've got more industry. This is the agricultural heart of the South Island and probably New Zealand. We've got huge trucks carrying stock, carrying crops, carrying seeds, carrying all of those dairy products. The weight limits for a lot of those trucks has gone up, but the government hasn't provided the money to improve the roads to handle some of those conditions. So we have to keep pushing for our share of the cake and more in order to improve our roads, but we're not alone here, as I've said. We have taken some local initiatives. We did put in extra money to help roading this year, which is not subsidised money, but I indicated earlier there's a limit to how much of that we can do because it impacts on your rates. We have set up a consultation group of some experienced rural councillors with some of the people in their particular district. They started off in the southwestern part of this district, and they are working together to look at the roads, to look at the condition, to decide the priorities, to see what has to be done, and to find ways that we can do it better. That's happening and it's working well, and the plan is to extend it. The other thing that is happening is that the monitoring and supervision of some of our roading work is coming back in-house. It has been farmed out to consultants in some areas, and that hasn't been satisfactory. It's coming back in-house. We are going to have council staff directly doing some of the monitoring and reporting that back to council directly. It's not all of our fault, but we're on the case.
All right, thank you.
We are one of the fastest growing areas in New Zealand, and unfortunately our infrastructure has not kept pace with this growth. I understand that our share of the National Roading Fund is inadequate, and unless we address this issue urgently, there will be roads in our district that will be unsafe to drive on. I do not believe there is an excuse for potholes to remain unfixed, but once fixed, there should be some accountability for those repairs so that we can expect them to last a reasonable period of time. Anyone who doubts how bad it is only has to look at the corner of Kermodes and West Streets. Our roads, footpaths, are a hazard for pedestrians, children on bikes, mobility scooters and general transport. We are tired of out-of-town consultants at huge expense telling us what and where we need things to be done. As Mayor, I would pledge to take ownership of this problem and drive ways of rectifying it.
This council has taken ownership of the problem. We have our local roading contractors, inspectors that were operating out of Timaru and Christchurch now operate out of the office. Even some people have said to me it's good to see them walking the footpaths with their little notebook. They're out on the roads. Someone complained to me the other day that a single truck had come up and it had only filled in the potholes. Why didn't it fill in the rest? And I said, what happened the next day? They said the grader come along and graded it one way and another way to work it into the pothole. That's what we've done in taking ownership of the problem. If the contractor that we employ does not meet their obligations in the future, we actually have someone operating out of our office here in Ashburton instead of working for an outside consultant. You can keep much better control that way. Yes, we have decreased funding because we are a very wealthy district. That is one of the conundrums that we have worked through. That's what the South Island mayors have been working with. But we also have the other conundrum. Parliament is giving contractors the ability to put heavier trucks on the road. Our trucks weren't built for 50-tonne trucks. They were built for 35, 40-tonne trucks, and they wear out the roads. That is no excuse. We have to do our best. The Mayor of Huanui, no, I won't because you've got the tape going. I was going to tell you a little story about a Member of Parliament, but I won't. Although he does know about it. I think there's a little road leading to a certain Member of Parliament's farm in Huanui. And I don't think the grade has been up and down that much lately, and I think the bridge is falling into disrepair. That's the sort of pressure the mayors of the whole South Island are putting on the Members of Parliament, because it's only through that we will actually get the action. Of course, we have to remember that the whole money coming from transport to the government coffers actually went down 1.5% in the last year. That's why you may have noticed in the budget they actually put the tax on petrol up. So please help us. The reference group being run by Councillor Totty and Wilson in, where are we, that part, the south-western part of the district, is working very well, and it's going to be Council's intention to expand that to all other areas of the district. So working in with the ratepayers, I believe we will get there.
Any replies, any rebuttals?
I'd just like to say that actually the people here in the audience today can also help with this problem by lobbying the MP and, you know, emphasising how much we do need our roads fixed, and go and knock on her door and rattle the cage a little bit and see if you can have any joy. I'd also like to know if our 2 new staff members at council are only going around filling in their notebooks telling us where the potholes are and the roads that need repair. I'm not sure how that's going to help us fix them.
Yeah, can you please, Russell, can you please direct it to...
Oh, okay. Yes, Angus, yes.
Their main job is to go back and make sure the contractor has done a decent job. Remember that in the contract we do not pay for the filling in of that pothole until it meets our standard. So if that contractor has to come back 3 times in a couple of months, that contractor has not been paid until the job meets the council specifications.
Okay. On? Okay. Right, next question. The Ashburton Central Business District has suffered significantly in the earthquakes, and it's only become more obvious as we're doing more engineering reports. What is your vision, the candidate's vision, what is your vision in priority in regards to the redevelopment, and what support can council offer individual property owners? Russell, you want to start with this?
Okay, thank you. This one's fairly short for me, but I believe council has an important role to play in this with guidance and coordination so that the private sector can take this opportunity to provide aesthetically pleasing, functional, user-friendly buildings with some innovative parking areas to enhance our great town. As Mayor, I would be committed to a council with a can-do approach to encourage sustainable development rather than act as a roadblock. All council staff would be encouraged to say, how can we help you?
The can-do approach, ladies and gentlemen, started about 2 years ago, just a few months after the earthquake, when we called or invited all landowners in the Central Business District to a meeting in the Hotel Ashburton. From there, our planning staff have been working very closely with these people. We have had also a policy of the Glasgow leases, where there's a strip of Glasgow lease between 2 freehold properties. and the property owners want to get together, or the property owner wants to purchase that, so it's a freehold title, so they can borrow from the bank in an easier manner. Yes, the only complaint I've heard about that is it's good that you will sell them, Angus, but it's the price that you charge for the sale of that little bit. Can I say it is worked out through a valuation? But any buyer always complains that our valuation is too high. But we are charged with looking after the ratepayers. But the conundrum we have is that can council actually force these people to just have car parks on their own land? We do have requirements for car parks around buildings, but whether we can actually build a parking building ourselves with such small numbers of cars actually entering the CBD compared with the likes of Christchurch, for example, because it all has to make a return at the end of the day. Because if we built a big car park and it was only half full and it wasn't making any money or paying its way, you people in the audience tonight would be the first to start asking the questions of council.
No, we'd be first, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you. I support what Angus has said. We began on this work some time ago. Council has facilitated a large number of the property owners in the CBD whose buildings have been affected, demolished, or are going to be. And they have been working together through council facilitation and surveying to look at a joint development project for that CBD block. As I understand it, there is huge goodwill from almost all of them. They are prepared to move forward to develop that block together. Council owns some of the land in that block as well, so we have a vested interest. But in terms of the business side of things, those landowners who own the property there will be looking to form some form of consortium, I guess, that will drive that joint project from a business point of view. We are facilitating, we are helping, we've done some surveying to get them initial information. We hosted, as Angus said, a session probably a month or so ago where Bill Skew's architects were looking at concepts for the development of that area, and we will continue to do so. I believe it's a grand opportunity for the council and the Central Business District owners to work together, for us as a town to have some planned development that everybody is agreed on and move forward with. We don't get those sorts of opportunities very often because you don't often get clear space in the middle of a town that you can develop on a wide front. The only other thing I would add to that is that I believe, because part of that development used to be community house, we need to have a look at the social services that had to move from there, say for Ashburton District Community House Services, and find a way of bringing them back into the Central Business District or closer to the centre of town as well. But in terms of that, the business property development of that CBD, it's happening, it's been happening for some time, and council's right in the middle of it.
All right, time for rebuttals. One thing, a supplementary question I want to throw in there. How do the candidates think, is there anything the council can do about the potentially rising rents for people going to go back into those new shops that are going to be built? Because there seems to be a bit of a complaint for some of the smaller retailers that moved out of the maybe cheaper retail opportunities and want to come back into town but may struggle because of the price of what those earthquake strengthened buildings have cost and what the rental turns out to be.
I think you'll find it might become a case of supply and demand, and if there's an oversupply of shops and not the demand, I think that will set its own rent price anyway. But yes.
Anything the council can do from the two people that are on the council?
As your mayor, I would have a policy of not interfering with private enterprise unless asked or unless there is a way of assisting them. The government has already moved to the detriment on this problem to some extent. Development contributions, for example, when you're building a $350,000 house, and the same spans out proportionally for a building, there would be about $1,200 come to the council development contribution for parks and reserves and buildings such as the art gallery and the stadium. The government has said no to those in the future, so that will reduce the $350,000 house by about $1,200 and proportionally a business, a new building. So if a new building is cheaper, the gap between what you get for rent and the net take-home pay for the landlord is bigger. But you have one action and you set off another action, because we've actually counted on those contributions when we did the budgets for the art gallery, and they're not going to be there because of the government decision. So it's already happened. It's going to help the central business district, but it's not going to help the ratepayer.
Okay. Yes, I heard.
Well, I think there are two things here. One is that council does have, in my view, an obligation to assist development in the town, and if that means talking about leases and rental prices and so on, we need to do that. On the other hand, we have an obligation to manage your money responsibly. So it's a commercial situation, and we have to balance those factors. On the one hand, helping business, helping the development of Ashburton, and doing that in a way that is not ripping people off. On the other hand, we need to make sure that we manage the money and the assets and the property that we currently have, so that we don't lose hard-earned ratepayers' money in doing so. The balancing act, we are perfectly capable of performing that balancing act, and we will.